Brandon Thurston from WrestleNomics is up next, and we're going to follow Brandon with John Pollock from Post Wrestling.
Delivering on the returns, increasing our margins.
Ratings go down the toilet if I'm not here.
All I do is simply put the math in my favor.
We agree that Brandon and John do good work.
The reason is simple wrestling economics.
I've been told the Netflix numbers. I've been told the metrics a little bit, probably 5 different times. I still don't get it.
There were respectable wrestling journalists who needed answers.
Thank you very much, members of the media. I hope you all go to hell. How about we pop a number right here, right now?
Whole part of the show, man.
Welcome to the still independently owned Pollock and Thurston. Brandon, we have not been absorbed by any entities, correct? There has been no bid for us. We are still independent.
We're always open for business.
We're always open for business. That is correct. As was Warner Brothers Discovery, it turned out. And what a climactic, well, do we believe this is this the conclusion, Brandon? Do we feel, is this it? Is there more to come? It feels as though one side has prevailed and the other is stepping aside and generously withdrawing its $82 billion, and it's going to hold on to its $82 billion. A truly selfless act by Ted Sarandos and company.
Netflix has bowed out of the bidding for Warner Brothers Discovery. We're researching furiously what kind of wrestling fan Larry Ellison is and David Ellison is.
Oh dear.
Where we'll get on top of that as soon as we can.
Was Larry Ellison sending in house show reports when he was in his teenage years? Are we aware of this?
We're going to have to check his subscriber history. A lot of subscriber activity around this. I'll tell you what's doing really well right now, though, is Netflix's stock is jumped in after hours.
Shocking.
About $10.
How many shareholders for Netflix right now are blackout drunk in just celebratory already at 8:30 Eastern time? They are probably lining up rails of cocaine to celebrate that Netflix is out of the bidding process.
This stock closed at $84.60, and after hours, it's now over $90.
It's going to be great. Netflix is still going to win out in this. If you are not up to date on the latest, WBD had announced earlier today that its board of directors has determined that the previously disclosed proposal from Paramount Skydance constitutes a company superior proposal, or as Mark Shapiro would call it, a CSP. As defined by WBD's merger agreement. Paramount Skydance's proposal includes a purchase price of $31 per WBD share and a $7 billion regulatory termination fee payable by Paramount Skydance in the event the transaction does not close due to regulatory matters. Netflix had made its bid at about $27 per share, but that was for only half the company. Paramount's going all in for everything. And Netflix, shortly, about an hour or so ago, issued a press release announcing that it has declined to raise its offer for Warner Brothers. Netflix had earlier received notice from WBD that its board has determined Paramount Skydance's latest proposal constitutes a superior proposal, and they have announced that the transaction we negotiated would have created shareholder value with a clear path to regulatory approval. However, we've always been disciplined, and at the price required to match Paramount Skydance's latest offer, the deal is no longer financially attractive. So we are declining to match the Paramount Skydance bid. Warner Brothers is a world-class organization, and we want to thank Mr. Zaslav, Gunnar Wiedenfels, Bruce Campbell, Brad Singer, and the WBD board for running a fair and rigorous process. We believe we would have been strong stewards of Warner Brothers' iconic brands, and that our deal would have strengthened the entertainment industry and preserved and created more production jobs in the U.S. But this transaction was always a nice to have at the right price, not a must have at any price. You know, when you're just like, you're coming home, you've maybe drunk a few too many and you feel like pizza at 3 a.m. That's what Warner Brothers Discovery was to Netflix. Netflix's business is healthy, strong, and growing organically, powered by our slate and best-in-class streaming service. This year, we'll invest approximately $20 billion in quality films and series, and we'll expand our entertainment offerings. We'll continue to do what we've done for more than 20 years as a public company, delight our members, profitably grow our business, and drive long-term shareholder value. If I hit Google Translate, I think that means fuck you, Ellison. I think that is pretty much the straight up translation from this press release. But they're out. The Netflix stockholders are happy, and I think that Paramount Skydance are going to be turfing Kazuchika Okada's old submission. They're going to be deep in debt.
I had not completely read this press release, but I thought maybe you were reading from a media article or something when you read. But this transaction was always a nice to have at the right price, not a must have at any price. That is in the Netflix press release.
That's the official press release from Netflix. Like, we never needed this. Okay, we'll be just fine holding on to our $82 billion. Have at it, Paramount Skydance. You've got it. So, Brandon, we know that. You get news like this. How many degrees of separation until we get to the inevitable question?
I check the weather every morning and I ask myself that question.
It's curtains, right? Like this has to be it. Paramount Skydance will now, in theory, let's be honest, there is still a regulatory approval that this all has to go through. My cynical side of my brain says that the idea that this is just going to be landing this plane, there's not going to be any turbulence on the way down. We will see. This is going to take some approval processes to go through, but let us extrapolate that Paramount Skydance, to get all of Warner Brothers Discovery, that will be both the attractive streaming company and, of course, Gunnar's Shitco as well. And wrapped up in all of that is TNT, TBS, and HBO Max.
And I guess this is the more certain outcome for AEW, because then you at least don't have your streaming platform and your traditional TV platform into two different companies. One of them being maybe WWE's biggest partner in Netflix.
They are buying a larger streamer in HBO Max than Paramount Plus is.
Yeah.
Unlike the inverse, where Netflix, I mean, it is obviously the top streamer out there. But
Paramount at least doesn't have a major wrestling partner, although they are big time partners with TKO in the form of UFC, and apparently who knows where boxing will be in a couple of years for them. So there's at least that out there, but it's not pro wrestling, at least, where you could have exclusivity clauses, if such clauses exist in a Netflix and WWE agreement that could have some effect on AEW. At least you got that possibility diminished.
Yeah, and Mark Shapiro really hedged his bets on the earnings call last night when asked who would be a superior suitor here, and they were just, we see positives with both sides. I mean, they were putting their chips on red and black at the table, and they were ready for any outcome here. Okay, they were not going to pick sides in all of this, but here we are 24 hours later, and it looks to be, well, at least barring catastrophe, which these things always seem to attract, it does seem that Paramount Skydance, what is going to happen of their stock over the next 24 hours? We will see.
Their stock is up in after hours, and this is they closed at 11.18 today, and their stock in after hours is up to almost $12, $11.87. So that's up. Maybe is that a 10%? No, this is up 6% in after hours trading. So this is already creating shareholder value.
Yeah, so $31 a share. So this is going to be a $100 billion plus investment by Paramount Skydance for all of Warner Brothers Discovery.
Yeah, and it's probably the deal that the president wants. So that's always something that could help.
What if he changes his mind?
I don't know why he would change his mind at this point. There would have to be there would have to be maybe some affiliation changes for that to occur, I think.
Well, I'm sure this is going to be coming up further, but we have a lot to get to on tonight's show. So on Wednesdays are usually a busy day. They're a little alleviated now that we have separated these shows. And I was wrapping up everything on Wednesday, and it was just about 5 p.m. and I got a text from Brandon Thurston sending me a quote from Mark Shapiro that at first I thought was AI generated on your part, and then I quickly realized, of course, Mark Shapiro would have said this. And I'm thinking, did he do an interview? And then suddenly I'm looking online, like not even in the back of my mind, it was completely out of my mind that the earnings call was yesterday. And at 5 o'clock, I realized, oh my God, it's the earnings call today. And thus, my evening was thrown up as I had to get onto this call. And we have the year-end earnings report for TKO. Lots to report. They had a nice year of $4.7 billion, which was down 3% from the previous year. And we have breakdowns for the WWE and UFC. And of course, a big call from Mark Shapiro to give us some further guidance on the year to come. And of course, the announcement.
As such, going forward, we'll be referring to these site fees more broadly as financial incentive packages, or as we like to call them, FIPs.
We like to call them FIPs. You think that just caught on in the office?
I mean, it doesn't, in his defense, in Mark Shapiro's defense, it doesn't really capture. This is something I come across whenever, on occasion, I get to unearth what these incentives consist of. And sometimes largely, some of these deals consist of covering the expenses for the shows. I think that's what San Diego for Survivor Series was. That's often what, I say when they've done WrestleMania in Dallas, Texas, or in Arlington, Texas. There's a site fee of like a few $100,000, but then there's like millions of reimbursements for expenses. And that's kind of what happened last year in Las Vegas, where Nevada reimbursed them relative to the expenses that they spent. So there's in-kind value. Sometimes they're putting up marketing banners around the city, and that has an in-kind value to it. So it's not just all about, I mean, site fee does make it sound like it's a cash transaction, but I'm glad we have an acronym now to solve this.
Whenever possible. Are you going to use those in email in the subject line now?
In the subject line.
Yeah. Will you be inquiring about FIPs? Will you say for financial incentive package information inquiries?
I guess I'll have to when I reach out to TKO for comment.
Yes. I'm sure they'll get right back to you. So let's go through just some of the figures here. The WWE actually outperformed the UFC when it came to overall revenue for the year. UFC grew its revenues to just over $1.5 billion, but WWE increased its revenues last year by 22% to $1.709 billion for the year. So obviously these are the two entities that are really carrying things. IMG saw a big fall because of 2024 and the contributions the Paris Olympics provided for IMG. So they fell by $600 million. But those are essentially the three pillars that they are breaking down under TKO and IMG. That incorporates its on-location business and what has kind of been consolidated under the IMG banner.
On location, I think there's agency, some sports agency business is involved in IMG. Yes, and actually they have disclosed that at one time or another that PBR, which is a part of TKO now, is actually in this corporate and other category, which is relatively small.
Yes, Power Slap not part of any of
this.
No,
that's Dana White's deal.
Yeah, I feel like the world's moved on from whatever of Power Slap. You don't hear anything about Power Slap anymore.
There was something like, have you seen? Did I send you the link to the?
I know what you're talking about. You did not send it to me. Is this the where the dudes just run into each other? Oh my God!
It's like football, but two guys just no pads, no helmets. No helmets.
I thought Power Slap was the stupidest thing I ever saw, and this is that times 10. Like this will be in the TKO portfolio. It's two guys, just jacked up dudes who sprint at one another, like no helmets. It's just like basically to the death is what this is. Like not an IQ point between the people involved in this, but yeah, this is just taking over your algorithm if you click on this.
Running straight, maybe. I just Googled two guys run at each other. And the first result I got is from Yahoo Sports saying, run in straight league is sparking debate over CTE fears.
Fears? Oh, you think there could be any CTE damage? You know what? I have been quite the proponent, I think, over the years, if you look at my track record when it comes to concussion awareness. I'm sorry. I'm not dedicating an ounce of concern for anybody that engages in this. Have at it.
I don't think Dana White is involved in this, though, at least not yet.
It's so stupid. Like you owe it to yourself to watch at least one of these, just because our description won't do it justice. Where they run into one another. But anyway, back to our figures here from the earnings call. So the company reported net income of $546.2 million. That compared to a loss last year of $245.8 million. They also returned over $1.3 billion of capital to equity holders through share repurchases and dividend payments, along with related distribution. So we knew about the stock buyback program where they have bought back pretty much almost the full billion shares of stock.
That sounds right. And they announced an additional $1 billion in stock that they're going to buy back. Remember, this company is paying $75 million per quarter to their shareholders in the form of dividends. So we talk about how much shareholder value has really been the incentive for this company and for lots of other things in life. And they've really paid their shareholders really well. Fans may be, not having a great year if you're a fan of WWE. Employees maybe not getting all the benefits that they got when WWE was an independent company. But shareholders, the stock has gone way up over time. It's well outperformed the indexes, in part because of their buybacks, but in part because of their performance. And they doubled the dividend around 8 to 12 months ago.
Yeah, they've increased their debt load by $1.3 billion over the past year. So their current debt is over $3.7 billion after the latest refinancing of its loan from a decade ago when Endeavor first bought the UFC. So that is the debt that they are operating with. But yes, it's they have paid back a ton to its shareholders. Some of the notes here we had. So none of this reflects the UFC's deal with Paramount yet. That went into effect in January, but we did get the first quarter of the WWE ESPN deal. This was the first full year of the Netflix agreement with WWE as well. So obviously WWE's media rights have now crossed the $1 billion a year threshold. UFC's media rights not far behind at just under $908 million, but that is going to skyrocket this year with the addition of. They essentially doubled their rights fee going from ESPN to Paramount Plus. So they will exceed WWE in 2026. Everything's going up is basically the gist of things. When it comes to the one big differentiator between the two, though, UFC is still miles ahead of WWE when it comes to their sponsors and marketing. They brought in $314 million. WWE, while they almost doubled that same category last year, is still at $159.6 million. So for all you want to say about the UFC, and it is certainly leaned in on a lot of sponsors, your Jeremy's Razors and Hardcore Coffee and stuff. These places are spending huge amounts of money on UFC for its promotional side of things.
I don't think you have the clip for today, but Mark Shapiro was going on about just when you think we've exhausted all the categories, we pull out
there's
dude
always
wipes.
a fear we're running out of categories, and then we pull out dude wipes. There's no end to the opportunity here. We own men with these sports.
You know me too well. It just jumped out at me. Just when you think you have the answers, I change the questions. We pull out dude wipes, official shit cleaner of the WWE. So, congratulations. Mark Shapiro had a bunch here. He was asked about the White House card, which we will. Well, let's go in order here. The White House was an interesting talking point. When it comes to live events, WWE did see a drop in this fourth quarter of 2025. That despite the FIPs that they had attached to, they had Crown Jewel in Perth, Western Australia, Survivor Series in San Diego, and John Cena's last match in Washington. I think those were the only three they had that we're aware of that they had some kind of financial incentives in the markets. Well, the year before, though, had a Saudi Arabia show, so that would be a big difference maker.
Yeah, and then in the year before, it was in which month? October, probably, in 2024.
Which, Crown Jewel?
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
So what was in October this year instead?
It was Crown Jewel, but in Australia.
But in Australia, which we showed, drew they did 3 arena events that I drew like $8
They did
million.
that incredible gate of $4 million, and that's tied to the deal the UFC had with that TKO has with Perth. They've done
right. There's some sort of site fee that's happening there with Australia because it's Perth. And then they also ran those 3 arena events in Perth that drew a total of around $8 million, which we talked about last week. So it's not replacing the $50 million. And anyway, what we're getting at here is $68 million in live events in this Q4 of 2025, 93 in this Q4 of 2024, which is a difference of $25 million or so. So, yeah, I mean, that's almost completely because of the Saudi PLE, I'm sure.
We also learned about the cost of bringing a Royal Rumble to Saudi Arabia. How much more did the Royal Rumble command in
As far as
Riyadh?
WWE news, I felt that this was the biggest piece of WWE business news coming out of this.
We found out that it's the same price. It's bringing over the Royal Rumble, net them the same amount. They didn't put a exact figure attached to it, but we can reasonably assume like $50 million, give or take a couple of million for the Royal Rumble, which I find to be really interesting that, they're going to have 3 Saudi Arabia cards in 2026. So that's going to be very meaningful, but I think it certainly brings about, I cannot fathom that a WrestleMania would be going over there for the same amount, but it might somewhat hamper your expectation of like, how much are they getting as in above and beyond the fact that a Royal Rumble, it was the regular amount for a show.
Yeah. You don't have that audio ready, do you?
I don't have that.
Schleimer answering that question. I might be able to play it on the fly here.
So I was just interested in what the operational or commercial lessons learned were, and how do these kind of inform your plans to host WrestleMania 2027 there? And Andrew, if there's anything you could say about the FIP kind of relative to a normal Saudi Arabia event.
Take that part first. So Andrew will answer the FIP, and then Nick Khan is sitting here with us, and we'll let him talk about Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and our partners in Saudi.
So as we articulated in and throughout 25 and now on our conversation today, we did have one Saudi event shift from 2025 into 2026, such that we had 1 last year, we'll have 3 this year, all which carry the same revenue recognition and cost profile, despite one being branded as it was in January.
Yeah. So he's clearly saying to me that this was the normal price for a Saudi PLE, which
definitely
is 50 million. If you look at it super closely, you can find, I'm sure there's some variability, maybe depending on how quickly they pay it, or just things that we're not even thinking of. I think
it's also worth noting
this. I don't know if they're going to get, maybe
we're on a bit of a delay at the moment, but let's also remember the 50 million now it's coming with, like, you piggyback it with the TV as well, like where they're doing the SmackDown and the
refresh
and the Saturday show. So anyway, Brandon will be back, but yeah, it was a notable, I was happy that the question was asked and we got some kind of clarity, because I think the natural assumption was that the Royal Rumble going there would perhaps go above and beyond just the standard rate. Not to say that $50 million is minimal, but yeah, something that we definitely learned on this earnings call.
I think it really raises the question about what if they're going to get more than the normal rate for WrestleMania. I mean, Andrew Schleimer had an opportunity to suggest, to give a hint there, and he didn't. I mean, imagine if they were going to get $50 million in some other city in the United States, all said that, that I think they would jump at it to run WrestleMania in that city. And I wonder if they're just so deeply in business with the Saudis that maybe it's just the right thing for that relationship to say, or they're giving us $50 million. I guess we owe them a WrestleMania, and we probably want to make sure that Turkey is happy and we renew this deal. And he's happy with all the other business we're doing with him, with boxing and with UFC for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, WrestleMania is a tough one because it's at least 4 shows you're going to do there, right? Like the 2 nights of WrestleMania, and in theory, you're doing SmackDown and Raw there, I would think, in addition to all the other events that I'm sure they're going to, that will be part of your WrestleMania week. Like, it really does go above and beyond. If you were to argue, like, if there's any event that should command more, if 50 million is our baseline, that's it next year.
It is a 2-day event, and this Royal Rumble, it was not a 2-day PLE. Obviously, WrestleMania is a 2-day PLE. I know there's Raw and SmackDown that may happen around it. Another takeaway I got from this is based on Nick Khan's comments that followed what we just listened to. It sounds like they're going to do WrestleMania in that stadium that they built for the Royal Rumble.
Okay, I wasn't clear about if it was because the soccer tournament is going on next year. Did they make it clear like that's in the same?
There was discussion about what learnings did you have, and Nick Khan talked about how the stadium was just built, and that was not just the first WWE event there, but it was the first event period there. So we're still learning on how to light it.
Okay, it's the same stadium, so it is staying up. So that is good to know. For the guidance for this year, I found this to be like quite something. So they are targeting 2026 revenue to be between 5.675 billion and 5.775 billion. That would be a 21% increase off the revenue they brought in 2025. Adjusted EBITDA of 2.240 billion and 2.290 billion. That is a 43% increase over 2025. Now they have these rights fees are going to be escalating significantly for both WWE with a full year on ESPN, another year of an escalator, no less, for Netflix. UFC, it's year 1 of its Paramount deal. You have 3 Saudi Arabia shows. There is, for On Location, they were stressing the fact that they just finished the Olympics and the World Cup should do very well for them. You've got Zuffa Boxing. Like, there's a lot to look at this year that TKO is going to do very, very well this year. But if you have any thought that TKO is going to be taking its foot off the gas when it comes to aggressive pricing, aggressive just profitability in every corner, like this year is not going to be the year they let up. This to me tells you why, even in the grand scheme of things, WrestleMania is not the be all end all, but there is, you have set the bar very high for this year to your shareholders of what you are going to acquire this year. And the White House event, it's going to be a bit of an albatross on this company, because I came out of this call and I think a reasonable person would be asking why they are in fact doing this White House card. They guaranteed it's going to be a big money loser for us. We are going to lose. They confirmed
it's great marketing value, though. It's a $30 million awesome commercial for UFC.
Oh my God. Here's Mark Shapiro on the White House.
About the ROI of that event.
No, that's a great question, and it is important to many of our shareholders. So it's good that we talk about it in more detail. Look, at the moment, the UFC event at the White House is slated to cost upwards of $60 million. I think by the time we get done, all is said and done with the event, and what we pay the fighters and the fan fest we're going to have, that could move north. It's definitely not moving south. It could move north. Bottom line is it's still a moving target. We are working to determine on a parallel track a package of inventory in and around the weekend of events that we can monetize primarily with corporate partners, B2B players, which will offset half of the spend. Even if that 60 goes up or rides up on us, we believe we can offset half of the spend Today, we see it as 60, offsetting 30. Now, I would mention we have several current and prospective partners that are pursuing multi-year partnerships with TKO assets that likely will be inclusive of the White House event.
All right, that is Mark Shapiro. So best case scenario, we'll lose $30 million on this event on June 14th.
No site fee? No site fee from the local government here for this amazing event celebrating America's 25th birthday?
There is no FIP that we are aware of.
Excuse me.
Dana White has stated that UFC is footing the bill for this, and that was consistent with there's no taxpayers. The taxpayer is not going to be on the hook for any of this $60 million, according to TKO.
No shortage of government agencies if you want to send a records request and try to look into that, though. But I'm sure they would be, not saying this if that was the case.
Yeah, I don't think this would be the event that you would skirt the truth about. But yeah, I would certainly like for a year like this, and for a company as disciplined as TKO when it comes to maximizing profitability. Like, we remember Brandon talking about like the constant refrain from TKO during the lead up to that Sphere event was, this is one and done. This has gotten way too costly. That was a $20 million price tag where they could sell tickets. They can't sell tickets for this event. They're going
to sell thousands of tickets, I think, or they're going to sell thousands. They're going to have thousands of seats available.
There's going to be 3,000 to 4,000 seats. That's according to Ari Emanuel. And it sounds like a lot of it's going to be by invite only, because you have to go through like security procedures to get onto. Regardless, you're not getting a massive gate for this for this event, which you could at the Sphere, where they did get a presenting sponsor and that was sold as a pay-per-view. None of that is going to be part of the equation for this card on June 14th. It will air on CBS. It will air on Paramount Plus. It's great for those entities. And yes, UFC is going to get a ton of attention for this. But to me, it's a real big hope that this attention is going to transfer into like recurring viewership, or is going to yield some kind of value beyond this date. Because on this date alone, like, you are losing a ton of money for this spotlight that you are being granted.
Hypothetically, if you're running a business that is operating in a kleptocracy, hypothetically, wouldn't it behoove you to enhance your relationship with the government? And if the government, if there's a very powerful figure who's overseeing that kleptocratic government, who has to approve of all such deals that you make, big ones, especially ones that need government approval, is it just worth the
is this the cost of doing business?
The enhancement of this relationship with this administration, hypothetically. And I mean, but then again, I mean, is this guy going to be in office, 2 years from that event? I don't know. Well, a different party might be in office, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's one that, you saw that puck report this week, and there was a lot of, I am just sure that there are a lot of shareholders that are looking at this, and that's the prism of what they look at here. And it's not like this call was done to kind of ease the concern. If any ease, it was like, we're not going to lose $60 million here. We're only going to lose half that. Don't worry.
What did they lose on the Sphere? The Sphere was a
no. The Sphere was a profitable show at the end of the day. It still did its biggest gate in history, and they got that Riyadh season sponsorship as well. But like, this is not an event that you're going to make it back off a big.
Will Riyadh season be sponsoring the 250th birthday of America?
My guess would be no. I do not think that Mark Shapiro.
Get MBS over here. They're all friends.
I mean, it's the more the merrier. I'm sure that will be welcome. But they said, we are not going to make any money off of this event. They said, we are not going to make money off the U.S. 250th anniversary. This is this is their reinvestment into America.
Yeah,
it's very selfless of them.
I guess the thing that jumps out to me is maybe you realize that this is a rather kleptocratic government that you're operating in, and maybe it's worth $30 million to be a part of this big party that your friend is putting on, so that your friend approves of deals and it doesn't get in your way. And if you have any problems,
if it's a case of the government, if the government was the one that initiated this and said, hey, UFC, we want this show, I do understand then this. as
Do we know
opposed to
how
the
it
idea.
was initiated, like how this came to be?
No, I don't know what the initial idea was. Like, is it possible that Donald Trump thought up this idea and pitched it to Dana, who was all ears for this? And, this has been a government, like these two sides, like they have been very beneficial to one another. And, it's just, it's quite the ask, I would say, of a UFC, of a TKO that is just so extremely disciplined when it comes to like maximizing every dollar imaginable. And here's one where they are just going to burn it on this one day. It's great for Paramount Plus. It's great for CBS. It's probably going to be advantageous for the White House and its administration to be able to host this event. It's going to get tons of attention. I guess it's just tough. Like, how do you quantify all that, as they call it, earned media and attention they're going to receive that week into this being a worthwhile expense? Because it's a sizable one for a year that they are talking about increasing their revenues by 21% over last year.
And it's hard to tell if you listen to the Q&A of these earnings calls, but Ari Emanuel, who's a major Democratic donor, is the CEO of this company. And, the UFC has only, this huge embrace of the Republican Party by the UFC has come, completely under the time that Endeavor has held UFC.
Maybe Ari invites Rom and they'll be seated cage side on the South Lawn.
Maybe we'll bring sports, bring everybody together. So maybe.
So in closing here, Ari stressed in his what Brandon would assume would be a pre-recorded statement that he provided in advance.
I question if he's in the room. I don't know, because we throw to Nick. He's never there. Do
you think Ari's just sitting around on this conference call, throwing a tennis ball in the air for an hour and 3 minutes? This guy was long gone by this point.
He never does the conferences. I just question, like, how deeply involved is Ari Emanuel in this company day to day?
I think this is an AI version of Ari Emanuel that's on these calls, like the Antonio Inoki robot that is being created. But Ari stated, this is a year of execution. We are an execution story. They touted the success of the first UFC event in January on Paramount Plus, nearing 5 million streaming views, that they grew WWE's profit margins from 40% to over 50%. Take that, online critics. Record gate for the Survivor Series as expected. And yes, $452 million in cash dividend payments for the year. And yes, repurchased about 900 million Class A common stock. And then that is since that repurchase program was introduced. And then a new one for another billion shares is being launched in March as well.
And just to add here, for the wrestling fans out there, we did have UBS analyst Ryan Gravitt. He did ask. He congratulated TKO on their very nice momentum at WWE with the premium live events and the Cena Farewell Tour. I just want to confirm if you think underlying gate revenues can continue in 2026 at the WWE. And Mark Shapiro said, We've read the online criticism and we're taking prices down. No, he didn't say that. He didn't give a very substantive answer, but he certainly didn't back off. He said, look, we're continuing to see strong growth in ticket yield and FIPs, and there's no indication that they're going to do otherwise. I believe there's a comment earlier in that they still, and he said this at other conferences before this, that they still think there's room to grow there. My look at Polestar data on what the average ticket sold price was for the last few months, it looks like I see signs that they're hitting the ceiling on what the ticket price is that they can sell.
Yeah, and just WrestleTix did put out some new numbers for WrestleMania. I think it was today. Night one currently stands, again, this is WrestleTix, 36,200 tickets distributed for night one, 37,135 for night two. And I looked to exactly a year ago this week. Night one would be 19% behind last year and 18% behind on night two. SmackDown and Raw, too, they're both at about 6,200 tickets out on each night. And I think it's also, like, do not underestimate, like, the amount of savviness that I think a lot of fans have now towards, if you want to go to this event, you're going to wait until the last minute when ticket prices are going to come down. And that I think these shows overall, they will still get a big movement in terms of numbers, but it might be late in the game, and I do think you are going to have to address the pricing concerns if you want this number to grow at this rate, because they are nowhere near last year's levels.
And I just don't know what the ticket price differential is in this year versus last year to know what the revenue comparison would be.
Well, that's it. Like, we could be at similar like gate figures at this point. The fact that there was like this emergency meeting in WWE, and we have heard about the concerns about the card and such, it tells me that whatever their numbers are at, they are not at the levels they want to be at. I think that would be a fairly good read of this, but you're right. We don't know what the gate figures stand as compared to last year as well. Yeah. You did a big breakdown on television ratings, and forever in infamy, January 26th, 2026 is going to be a day celebrated for years to come among wrestling executives, because that was the day that Nielsen incorporated this updated methodology after the famous DASH study. And we have been going through the numbers each and every week. How big of an impact has that had? And you dug into the impact on all of the key wrestling programs across WWE, AEW, and TNA Impact from when the big data plus panel changes occurred, that going into effect September 22nd, and then looking at what have the changes been over the past month. So I'm sure many people here have gone through this story, but what was some of your findings here, and would they coincide with a rebound of wrestling audiences?
That is the headline, that there has been a rebound. Everybody is up. Now, this is only supposed to affect cable, where we have seen over the same course of time a slight increase for NXT2, which is on CW, which is broadcast, which is not cable. The demo is not up for CW. For NXT, it's flat. But the demo is up for everybody else, too. And we even got a little bit of TNA time in here, too, because TNA Impact has been on AMC since January 25th.
Has there been a greater recipient than Collision? Collision has just found new life.
Collision's doing great
last month.
Collision's doing really great.
They're going against Elimination Chamber this Saturday. That's how confident they are in Collision in this new data system.
Yeah. So you can. It bears looking at the charts. You can really see I've drawn lines here, vertical lines, where like this is when big data went into effect. This pink line here is when they made the change. And for Collision in particular, you see this big jump. For Dynamite, you see, I mean, basically all of the numbers for since the change have been better than before the change. SmackDown has jumped up significantly too, despite these last two episodes being on Sci-Fi. I imagine if they were on USA, they'd be a little bit higher. So whatever they did to the methodology, I know they included this advertiser DASH study from the Advertising Research Foundation, but that has really repaired the ratings, which is a big deal, because this is the currency. This is I buy an ad and it's sort of like a retainer. It gets diminished based on how many impressions your program gets for me. So the better their viewership is, the more quickly they can satisfy ad buys, and that is especially for AEW, probably especially for NXT, even though it's maybe not being affected by this. They're probably largely being justified to their networks by how much they can drive advertising revenue. SmackDown's probably driving some of the carriage fee too for USA Network, but I mean, this is really why these programs are worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year, is because they have strong ratings. And if they're not getting, if their ratings are down by 20%, particularly in the ad demos, which they were down more severely in the ad demos than they were for the total audience. That's bad. And if they're back to where they were, that's good. I did look at too, how is this affecting the rest of TV? And you know, it wasn't like, you know, all of TV was down. I mean, like, in fact, it's the opposite in that, if I can pull up the right chart. And wrestling, I've got, if you're watching in video, you've got SmackDown here in blue, Dynamite in purple, Collision in orange, and it's the moderate minority of programs that I could find where I took all of, so it's not just before and after. The other thing we were looking at before was before and after. This is the same telecasts, the same episodes, measured under two different methodologies, the old panel only and the new big data plus panel. I was looking here just at the before the change point from January 25th and prior. And the majority of programs benefited from this change in methodology. Wrestling was on the third of the programs that suffered because of the methodology. And I know we've talked about in the past how, well, maybe it has something to do with the fact that wrestling is not sports, but it's also a long duration program of at least 2 hours. And maybe there's an exception that sports is being given so that sports is not being counted as passive watching. I think the notion is that if you're measuring viewership, you want to discount people who have just left the TV on for hours at a time and walked away. They're not seeing the ads. That makes sense. So you're taking long duration programs like sports and accepting them from that penalty. But maybe wrestling being fake is not being given that exception. And in fact, it is, I'm pretty sure by these networks, it is not being categorized as sports. We know that in WBD, AEW is not in the sports category. I don't believe that SmackDown is largely being overseen by NBC Sports. So I cut this down to just give me the 90-minute programs or longer. And what you get there is an even smaller minority of programs that I could find measured weaker in the new methodology versus the old. So it's the majority of programs that are benefiting. Some of these programs are benefiting like double-digit figures. If things like Liga, Spanish language broadcasts of soccer, a lot of children's programming among programs that are shorter. So it raises questions about like maybe the big data is measuring younger audience, children's audiences differently. Maybe they're measuring Spanish language audiences differently. Anyway, there's only a handful of programs that I could find that were actually measuring lower with the new methodology versus the old, if they were 90 minutes or longer. We got a few other things like Mind of a Monster on ID, whatever that is. RuPaul's Drag Race on MTV suffered. A few other things. But it's mostly wrestling. Well, it's not mostly wrestling, but we got 3 programs here that are wrestling and I don't know, something like 12 others. So it's almost, I don't want to call it uniquely a wrestling problem, but wrestling is among the few programs that really did suffer, whereas lots of others, a lot of sports especially, benefited. Children's programming benefited. Some Spanish language programming seemed to benefit. Other programs that seem to suffer, coincidentally or not, seem to be a lot of like Adult Swim type programs like Rick and Morty. I think there's some Family Guy in there. There's a few other things too.
Is it fair to assume that there's probably
Futurama, Bob's Burgers, punished by big data?
Maybe it's just after all these years of Nielsen hearing from wrestling fans, the most aggravating fan base, they just decided, you know what? Let's end this thing. Let's just get rid of wrestling.
That's consistent with my experience.
I mean, what was the final message at the late great Showbuzz Daily in their farewell message was, thanks to all you asshole wrestling fans. I mean, it was just, but in all seriousness, looking at some of the panel only numbers, like we talked about how well Collision ended up doing that same day as the Royal Rumble. And in your findings here, had we gone on the old system, like they did 492,000 viewers the same day as the Rumble. Panel only, they would have done 621,000. Grand Slam Australia on Valentine's Day. Not to say that Valentine's Day was going to be a deterrent for wrestling fans to watch a loaded up card on a Saturday night. That would have done even higher. That would have done an additional 90,000 viewers on that show as well. And this SmackDown show, that was like the high point, February 6th, under panel only, would have done 1,750,000 viewers and a 0.48. That's an incredible number.
Right. So this is one of the big takeaways too, is that yes, this has largely repaired the wrestling audience that had previously been suffering under this new methodology.
But it's not like it's just going back to the old
But the
level.
panel only is still higher. It's
Yeah.
still significantly higher. We talked about this. We previewed this a bit last week, I think. But you think that, well, maybe they're just equal now? No. Panel, so whatever. I think whatever data they're putting in from the Dash study is being put into the panel only. I can only assume that.
Yeah, basically, like with the majority of these numbers you found, like, yes, wrestling numbers are up. They should be even higher. Like, that's kind of the conclusion here. But I mean, that's great to know.
What's the reality?
But the panel only
fact,
ones are,
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like these panel only things. They're interesting to know, but they're really not going to hold any water if, like, ultimately,
and I don't think ads are being sold against those.
They're not. So it's like these viewership numbers are only as good as what you can offset them towards in terms of some kind of value for the program of which it's representing here. But even TNA, I mean, like, look at this. Like, they have gotten off to a really great start on AMC, and they are hovering at, over 200,000 viewers on a weekly basis. So they have exceeded the audience they were attracting on Access TV. So there are some new people that are watching TNA, or at least now have access to Impact on a more broader station.
And they're doing a lot better still than their debut, which is really bucking the trend.
Did you send this to Moose?
I didn't. I'm sure he's on top of it though.
Okay. Well, let's move on here. NXT Stand and Deliver was announced via Shawn Michaels online in a video on his phone that Stand and Deliver not taking place WrestleMania weekend. Instead, it will get its own weekend, airing Saturday, April 7th at the Factory in St. Louis, Missouri. So instead of WrestleMania weekend, it's going to run over Final Four weekend for the NCAA men's tournament. And they're running in a venue that holds, like, for concerts, 3,000 people. And I thought what was most interesting in this press release is that there's zero mention of Peacock in the press release. And the understanding we had was that the existing deal between WWE and Peacock was going to expire in March. And I have asked WWE, and I have not checked my email since we have. Well, I've been recording for the last 45 minutes, so they might have given us an answer. I'll try and get.
Is this a house show? Maybe this is a house show.
I don't think it's a house show.
I don't think that would be good for morale. They're not going to be at WrestleMania weekend. I've heard this is not a. It's not something that's great news to those involved with the show. So, like, is this just going to be on YouTube? Is this going to be on CW? We've talked about before. It seems to make sense for CW to want this, and I don't know what they're usually airing on. What would they usually air on Saturday, April 4th that would do better?
Well, they're not going to have any men's basketball that night, so I don't know if it'd be the best night to run against, but sure, that's an option. You could do television, and I don't see why you would do this just for no other kind of broadcast option. But yeah, internationally, you're probably going to be limited to YouTube. But I mean, it remains to be seen. Obviously, they're running the show, but I think it was notable the fact that Peacock is not listed here. I also did reach out to Peacock, who have not responded either as well. So we will see what they have to say about this. Zuffa Boxing, over the past week, they signed Connor Benn, and this sent many MMA fighters into a rage when they found out that this boxer is getting $15 million. And then today it was revealed he's not even headlining a card. He's going to be in a co-feature April the 11th at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, fighting Regis Prograis. You familiar? April the 11th underneath the Tyson Fury fight. And yes, $15 million, which, boy, Mark Shapiro was very, very adamant. It's a one-time fight, and Saudi Arabia is paying the bill for this. We're not paying anything for this, okay? Don't worry. For $15 million, don't worry. Meanwhile, the White House, we're paying for 2 Connor Benns. Well, kind of 4 Connor Benns, but yes, some MMA fighters very upset who have never seen $15 million in their entire career, much less one fight. But wouldn't you know it, that when you have competition, you have to pay market rates if you want, even, like, I wouldn't even call Connor Benn like a really big name. He's a reasonable, like, he's valuable in the UK market, but like, this is like not your top level boxer, and he's going to get $15 million for a co-feature on Netflix.
Yes. Speaking of competition and Zuffa, I did not have time to read it. This came out today. I have sent you the link. There is a new 190-page complaint
Oh boy.
From some plaintiffs trying to start a class action lawsuit against Zuffa, TKO, and Endeavor over what did they say? They started out with a quote from Dana White that says, "Everybody thinks it's me being anti-competition. There is no competition. There is no other guy." This is a lawsuit alleging that pursuant to federal antitrust laws, etc., the defendants, UFC, have utilized a monopsony on the market of top-ranked fighters to monopolize the market for pay-per-view level offerings of mixed martial arts events. Through this scheme, the defendants have forced the plaintiffs and class members, which is, I think, MMA fans, to pay inflated prices in order to view pay-per-view level offerings of mixed martial arts, and more recently, forcing them to subscribe to Paramount Plus.
Okay, well, good luck.
So some light reading. It's on my Twitter if you want to read it.
Okay, 190 pages to take in if you are so inclined. We also have this interesting story. I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, but there is a claim. This was reported by the Hollywood Reporter that Paramount president Jeff Shell is accused of improperly disclosing key details of the UFC and Paramount's $7.7 billion deal a month before it was announced. There is an outside law firm that is investigating that, according to the Hollywood Reporter. The reporting party is RJ Cipriani, a high-stakes gambler with a documented history as a federal whistleblower. He's been in settlement negotiations with Shell over a dispute involving consultation services. He declined to comment. Cipriani is a colorful figure whose exploits as a high roller and government whistleblower have included battles with a Las Vegas casino behemoth, as well as an international drug lord. I want to sign this guy and give him a 10-episode series. That's what I came to the end of this. I think this can be the settlement with Jeff Shell.
The Cocaine Quarterback, is that a movie based on him?
Oh, is it? Okay.
Well, he's a movie where he is a character, I think, represented.
I see.
He's not happy with how he was represented.
Oh, I understand.
In that movie,
okay,
I understand.
well.
From reading the Hollywood Reporter article.
Well,
Jeff Shell, no stranger to tangentially wrestling-related stories. He used to be, I believe, the president of NBC Universal. He was a very high-ranking executive in NBC Universal, who I believe left that company in scandal.
And picked up by Paramount.
A lot of interesting characters here.
We also have Elimination Chamber is coming up this Saturday, and this is the first time since SummerSlam 1994 that they're running the United Center in Chicago. So if you remember, The Undertaker versus The Undertaker SummerSlam. 15,000.
This is the first time since that event.
Yeah, 31 years since they've run the United Center. They've always run Allstate Arena.
Well, you know why that is.
Tell us, Brandon.
So I've been working to obtain many venue contracts for a possible report later. But one thing we have learned that from looking at many W contracts with the Allstate Arena, in many cases, obviously they run the Allstate Arena many times, usually multiple times per year. And what I found is that they have an agreement. Not only do they have an exclusivity clause that puts a window over that venue for pro wrestling for a limited amount of time, but W is also agreeing that the Allstate Arena is the only venue, like within a radius of that venue in the Chicago area, that they will run. So it's sort of two-way exclusivity. W gets the venue to agree to not allow wrestling to happen in that venue for a window of time. It's usually something like 60 days prior. It's going to be something like, it might be 60 prior, 30 after. And the venue, and WWE is agreeing that they're not going to run other venues in the area, such as the United Center. But something happened.
What happened?
I don't know the answer to that question.
All right.
But that is remarkable given what we know about, or at least what I know and I've told everyone about here, about the Allstate Arena agreements.
So WWE is running the United Center, and in theory, the Allstate Arena is open for business.
What's this mean for AEW?
I suppose.
The only solution possible.
And it's a window of time too, so I don't know if AEW could squeeze in booking Allstate Arena, but at this point for AEW, it would probably have to be a pay-per-view.
Well, this will be Punk's return to the United Center since his AEW days, unless he doesn't count those. Maybe this will be the first time he's ever wrestled at the United Center.
In sports entertainment, yes.
Correct. And yes, Collision will be running head-to-head with Elimination Chamber this Saturday, so it's going to be an interesting night to see how Collision fares. It's a tape show that they did last night in Denver, Colorado, but Collision numbers have been doing very, very well, and it did surprisingly well the same day as the Royal Rumble, so it seems like they're at least testing the waters of going up against a WWE PLE and seeing how their audience holds up, and I think it's worth the shot after the kind of momentum they've been on of late. Big news coming for members or customers of Xfinity cable in the U.S. Alex Sherman reports that Xfinity customers are going to be enabled, as of today on Thursday, to access ESPN Unlimited just in time for the Elimination Chamber.
Yes.
What does that mean for Brandon Thurston? Do we have that video?
Well, I'm not an Xfinity subscriber. According to what Alex Sherman is saying there, and he's working for CNBC, which is owned by Comcast, right? Or is Versant separate? Anyway, Xfinity is a Comcast company, and you'll be able to, along with other pay TV carriers, you'll be able to log in to the ESPN Unlimited app and watch those WPLEs at no added cost, as opposed to $30. When I went into the ESPN Unlimited app today, I saw a screen of logos, of corporate logos, which was some of my favorite logos to see, and of all different pay TV carriers, including Xfinity, I don't know, Hulu TV, YouTube TV, which I am a customer of. So I said, oh, maybe I can authenticate into the ESPN app, and I clicked on it, and I did authenticate in. So I said, all right, let me see if I can watch Royal Rumble, and do I have access? And I was not able to. Last we heard, I think one of the trades reported that it's going to be sometime in late this year, maybe the fall of this year, that YouTube TV is expected to have access. So it would have been early if it had worked. Wow. But that is probably, if they really do get Xfinity covered, that's either number one or number two, I think, among the pay TV carriers in the United States, and YouTube TV is probably among the top 2 or 3.
Last topic here are some TV and streaming numbers for the past week. The Royal Rumble aired on ESPN last Saturday night, and it ended up doing 417,000 viewers and a .09. And what was it counter-programmed by? Well, yes, Collision did air, 470,000 viewers and a .08. But also, CW aired this Steve Austin documentary.
I think Royal Rumble was on Sunday.
Oh, was it Sunday? Okay.
Yes.
I've got the days wrong. So this was the Steve Austin one on Saturday or Sunday?
The Austin documentary went head-to-head with Collision.
Gotcha. Okay, so it was
Rumble
Austin and Collision. Rumble was Sunday. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. The Steve Austin documentary on Saturday did 385,000 viewers, .07 on CW. Collision, we mentioned 470,000, which was down 16%, and a .08. And then the Rumble Sunday night doing 417,000 viewers and a .09. I was curious to see how this Royal Rumble would do. It's not as though they were taking like an old Rumble and putting it on. It was only 3 weeks ago that it had taken place. I don't know.
I went back and I looked deeply into this to be like, all right, what does ESPN usually do in this time slot? And it's just a wide variety depending on whether they're airing 30
live sports,
30, right? If they're airing NFL primetime. I was shocked to see this number. This has nothing to do with wrestling, really. But like, you've got SportsCenter at 10:25 doing 191,000 viewers, and then NFL primetime 20 minutes later doing 756,000 viewers.
Wow.
Anyway, they did in this time slot. They did an NHL Stadium Series on February 1st that did 2 million viewers for the Bruins and Lightning. So that's the top end over the last few weeks. This did sort of smack dab in the middle of what this time slot is capable of. So it's neither like an astounding success or a failure, but fine. Maybe we'll see this again. Maybe
I think we will. I'm sure they will probably try this again with some shows. I could certainly see that happening. SmackDown last Friday, which was the second and final week on Sci-Fi, grew to 1,113,000 viewers, which was up 7%. And then the demo grew from a .26 to a .29 for Sci-Fi. And Raw from a week ago on Netflix, this being the February 16th episode, 2.7 million views, 9th globally, and ranking 7th in the US. Canada, it ranked 8th. And we are finally down to one country when it comes to last Friday's SmackDown. Only one country did SmackDown rank globally in the top 10. And folks, Canada, much like Netflix, bowed out. Bolivia stands tall. The only country where SmackDown ranked last Friday.
So I think it's interesting now that we're, just over a year into Raw being on Netflix. We no longer have to play the guessing. We can, but play the guessing game of what does this really mean relative to where it was on USA Network? We've now got a year-over-year comparison to make. Same platform, same season, and all that, and the massive premiere and the couple episodes after that aside. I mean, and now I know we're rounding here. We're not being very precise on the Tudum chart, rounding to the nearest 100,000 global views. But it's the same. It's basically the same as it was doing last year.
Yeah, it's, I think that you look at this in terms of, I would say from a year out, have they blown away expectations? I would say no, but it is year one at this point. It's still this is a platform that I think you want to be attached to. I think it's still a very, very good deal for WWE. The question is more so how Netflix views this, and being their only weekly programming that is year round, and it runs so counter to a lot of their other strategy towards sports in terms of big events that grab attention. And WWE does have those, but those are the premium live events, which they do not have in the US. And just weekly television, it's sort of just, it's commonplace. It does a reliable number. It typically is among their top 10 shows, at least Raw is weekly. But yeah, I cannot fathom that they're ever going to be able to reach what they did on that first week. I couldn't, last year we had that giant angle with John Cena, and that really did not, you had the night after WrestleMania. That was certainly a bump that they got, but everything was really concentrated in that whole lead up to the debut on Netflix. And I think this is, generally it's going to go up and down slightly, but I don't see any massive swings that their audience is going to go through.
And if they're being honest with the numbers, then if they go down, we'll see it here. But they're as long as they continue to rank in the top 10 or so, I would think that's that's good. It would be interesting to compare what's the cost of all these other programs that have delivered X amount of hours viewed and compare it to what they're paying for Raw. But maybe a project for another time. But they're doing okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone here in the chat is mentioning the HBO Max subscribers, and I do have that here because WBD did announce its earnings as well. Yes, streaming subscribers for HBO Max have reached 131.6 million. This mainly due to international expansion that HBO Max had into Italy and Germany, and they will be adding the UK and Ireland next month. But they added 3.6 million subscribers in the fourth quarter. 1.2 million of those were domestic. And so again, they're at 131.6 million, and they believe they will hit 150 million by the end of 2026. So this is still obviously they're looking at their best case at the end of this year is half of where Netflix is at, but they are well ahead of where a Paramount Plus is. HBO Max is it's a very solid subscriber base that they have.
Do we know how many US subscribers they have? I haven't checked on that in a while.
I believe they do have a breakdown of that. I don't have that in front of me, but 131.6 is the worldwide number. I was looking at this today. I don't have it off the top of my head, the US. I would guess in the 75-ish range for US.
Yeah, I'm scrolling. I don't see it, though.
All right. Well, there you go, everyone. Those are all the topics. Thank you to everyone in the chat for keeping us on target here and going through everything. Russell Joy, weighing in on the Big Data Plus panel discussion. We appreciate all the comments from everybody. And we are going to say goodbye. So do go check out all of Brandon's work at WrestleNomics.com. He just put up his extensive look into all of the pro wrestling audiences over this past month and comparing it to the introduction of Big Data Plus panel last September. Again, the charts are outstanding.
There's a big Sankey chart that's free for everybody too. You know what a Sankey chart is? If you don't, go to patreon.com/WrestleNomics now. Whether you're a subscriber or not, I'm being nice today. You can look at this big kind of flowy chart. So a Sankey chart. It shows you how the revenues flow into expenses and then finally into net income. The most final measure of profitability is net income. Never forget that. Operating income is nice. Things like adjusted EBITDA are made up, but net income, that the TKO, rather than making only a little bit of net income last year, made $195 million in net income. So they made some money, believe it or not.
We might have to adjust the logo, but this could be this could be a T-shirt sale for us. I think.
T-shirt. All right. Well,
would you not wear this around town?
No, I would not wear this.
Okay. Folks, we're going to say goodbye. You can catch my work at postwrestling.com. Brandon is chiming in there as well. And, of course, patreon.com/WrestleNomics, postwrestlingcafe.com. And on a show like this, we give the last word to Mark Shapiro.
We were lucky in the sense that we were the first one at the Sphere, and that was a big win for us. We'll be the first one and maybe the only one ever on the South Lawn of the White House. I can't tell you that we have any events coming up at the Kremlin, but we will definitely be looking for more one-time events, but nothing you should necessarily model